Hello everybody and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. This is a book review of Phoebe Gloeckner's 2002 Diary of a Teenage Girl, an account in words and pictures. This is my continuing series on women comics, authors and poets. Diary follows the sexual awakening of Minnie Goethes in a varied format of illustration, comics and prose. This book is fictional, however is based on Gloeckner's real-life teenage diary, notes and comics from the time. Minnie is 15 and lives with her mother and younger sister in an apartment complex in San Francisco during the mid-1970s. She does not have a relationship with her biological father, and her mother is divorced from the man who raised her from 4. Minnie avoids school and skips with friends, hanging out with other friends and with her mother's boyfriend, drinking and getting high. Minnie begins to experiment with sex by sleeping with her mother's said boyfriend, Monroe. Minnie displays risque behaviour, as any teenager does, but due to her mother's willful neglect, she gets taken advantage of by people like Monroe. Monroe's mother is also living in the mid-70s vibe. She drinks, smokes, imbibes drugs, and this leaves Minnie adrift with very little expectations to her behaviour. To be honest, this book, while confronting, is also complex and densely layered, and explores the complicated dynamics of being 15 and how the promiscuity of youth is quite often more damaging on women and young ladies than on men. Most female protagonists are often subject to the male gaze or from being subject to male review, who treat any female narrator like a handicap, and teenage sexuality, particularly in females, as an aberrant abomination rather than a reality, as if female sexuality is loaded or a moral topic to gather their pitchforks over rather than addressed realistically. While trigger warnings are often a legitimate warning for people who may not want to engage with the content, this book is not filthy or perverted. It presents a legitimate version of an experience, and while not everyone's experience, it is certainly an experience of a lot of teenagers and their sexual awakening. It is very realistic in the fact that it does not sanitize reality and is not expected to sanitize reality. Unfortunately, often the experience of teenagers are reduced and rendered into a pastel, vapid portrait of an experience that actually does not really happen. And it wastes an opportunity for frank and open discussion. Minnie's affair with her mother's boyfriend, who was 20 years her senior, is presented as it is for Minnie. Sure, we know as adults that this is, really creepy and pedophilic behaviour displayed by Monroe. But for Minnie's rush of hormones and lack of foresight and consideration for the future capacity, this allows this sexual exploration to become a positive experience for her particularly. In the wider context of her mother's drug and alcohol abuse, her father's absence, and her stepfather's often overtly sexual tendencies, a sexual awakening is another particular aspect of her life. Context is very important here, and the experience of Minnie from her own perspective, as strange a disease, as erroneous a disease, as the mistakes that she's making, or the fact that she's been taken advantage of, is as accurate it is to her as it is for us to read it. To put or place a moral judgment on Minnie's experience is to be as Monroe is in this story, to take advantage of a minor without listening to her voice. I would definitely recommend reading this book and ignoring the conservative dusting of hyperbole over this novel. However, please be aware that there are actually realistic trigger warnings in this book. For those of you who do want to avoid topics, certainly, again, as mentioned before, I am I do think trigger warning should be something that is said, hey, this has got it in there, so at least people who want to avoid those are aware of it. And these trigger warnings are drug use, sex, and rape. Thanks for watching another book review. Hopefully this helps you out on this book. This is kind of how it's in between. So it's part written, part comic, as you can see. And drug use, obviously. So thanks for watching. Enjoy your morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the day. I hope to see you all next video. And if you can, grab this book and give it a go. It's worth the read. And it's certainly an experience. Thanks everyone. Bye.